Hi there, I'm Blake and I'll be showing you the most common ways autofarms work in this tutorial and the reasons behind using an autofarm in the first place. If you hear any background noise, that's just my family, so don't worry about it. Now, the first things first is, how do they work? Well, they'll be used in construction to kill monsters or to complete objectives automatically without any form of outside assistance. It's started after it started, so there won't be any form of use from you. So you just press a button and it'll automatically gather or kill monsters. And it works by setting the CFrame of your HRP, otherwise known as your humanoid root part of your character, to a monster's or the object CFrame to actively farm or obtain that object in a recurring pattern. So the reason people auto farm is so they can obtain the rare items in your game, or so you can retain the rare items in a game, and that would otherwise require hours and hours of real life time or just grinding in general. So the main reason that people would usually do this is so they could offsite the item or to get the items for themselves or friends. And now, the most common preventive measures to prevent auto farmers, they're referred to as just anti-teleport scripts. Now, over time, people have found more and more precise ways to prevent teleportation. We'll be going over the most basic way to do that, which is called a magnitude check. We'll talk about how this works and why it works, and we'll also talk about how we can exploit the magnitude check we make in order to completely bypass and prevent a detection on ourselves, and also show developers the way that they can patch it. And then you could use your brain to figure out how to get past this, and developers will have a kickstart to know how they can patch the method and autofarm itself. So let's get right into it. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to insert a script in a server script server. So this will be a server-side magnitude check. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a table called players. And what we're going to do is create a player added event and connect it to our function. And after we do that, what we're going to do is we're going to create a table value with that said player's name. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a value called violations. We're going to set that value to 0. I'm also going to add a bypass value. We're going to set that to false. The reason why you usually want a bypass value in a basic anti-TP is in case you have like a teleport door or something. You can set this bypass value, and then you can pass in a CFrame of where that would teleport to, and then you can compare it to wherever they land. So you can see if they teleport in a wrong area to try to prevent that detection or otherwise else. So now what we're going to do here is we're going to create a coroutine wrap so this can run on its own thread. And then while we do that, we're going to do while true do, and then we're going to do wait 1. So basically every 1 second it'll iterate. One second. Alrighty, I'm back. I'm sorry about that. I was replying to a Discord DM. So now, basically what happens here is what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to do a pairs to go through each and every player in the game. So we'll do that. So for IV in pairs, game dot players get players. We use the get players function here, which is just a built-in Roblox function instead of get children. And now what we'll do is do if v dot character. So if the player has a character, and v dot character find first child humanoid root part, which is the root part of the character. And then we'll also add a humanoid to make sure the player is alive. And now what we'll do is we will add a local last pose and local last CFrame. So local last pose meaning the local last position, and local last CFrame means the last CFrame was at. And now the reason why we want both of those is because you cannot set a position of the humanoid part without causing it to bug out. You used to be able to do that in older Roblox, but you can't do that any longer. You have to set the CFrame. So now let's do this now. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to bring this weight inside of here. So what we're going to do is last post equal dot position. Actually, let's do this in a vector too, so we can get a more precise way. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do x and then z, because we don't want to get the y value necessarily, because that will dictate if someone's falling as well. And we do not want that, because if someone falls, we don't want them to get kicked for teleporting. So now that we have this, what we're going to do is just create the magnitude check now. So if, just copy this, I don't have to retype it. If last post minus dot magnitude is greater than, let's say, 18. Just basic walking speed. What we're going to do is increase the violations by 1. So instead of, oh, my bad, I didn't even realize. I accidentally mistyped that, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to increase the violations. Actually, I'm going to add another value in here called last violation, so we can reset the violation after, let's say, like 30 seconds. So we're going to make that a tick value. And then what we're going to do is if tick minus last violation is greater than, let's say, 30 seconds, right? That's what I said before. We're going to reset the last violation. And we're also going to reset the total violations back to 0. Now that we've done that, we can go in here and what we're going to do here is just, let's say, a max of 3. If it's greater than or equal to 3, then let's just kick them. The kick teleport detected. And then what we're going to do here is we're also going to reset their CFrame. That's why we are going to also do this equals dot CFrame. And then what we're going to do now is every time a violation is added, just reset that player's CFrame. So what we're going to do is we're just going to reset it. And then we will continue to do this. So now if we press play, we should have a basic anti-TP setup. You know what? I'll also add in, just to make this table no, because you don't want to add anything that could, if you have a game where servers will stay up for a while, you want to make sure to always clear out anything. Oh, well, this is why you should always not forget to add a, a little weight elsewhere as well. So actually, let's just add a basic weight. Oh, and I accidentally mistyped player removing instead of player removed. So yeah. So now, sometimes typos happen. So this says attempt to call a table value, which that's because I forgot to type .new. I think that's the only places where I have that, yeah. You know, typos happen. So now, if we just move around, nothing should happen to us. But if we change our CFrame, let's say, oh, I just literally just did dot character whenever I'm referring directly to the character, so just ignore that. So now you'll see how we get teleported back. We get kicked for teleportation detected. We should probably add a check in here so this doesn't error. So we're going to check for this table value, and if there is that table value, then we'll do it, just so it doesn't error. So now that we've seen the basics of how this is done, I'm going to show you the basics of how people would originally bypass this. So then if we just do this, that error that we had previously should just be fixed overall. So, or you know, it couldn't be fixed because I have a last violation check that I forgot to do the same for. If, then, and there we go. There we go. Oh, there's your fine first trial, and I forgot to do as well. So we're gonna do. Let's just do if. We'll just add in another if statement here and do just if dot character. Now we should be shown. Yeah, there you go. Now we're going to be talking about the most basic way to bypass this. Now, the most basic way to bypass the most simplest of anti-TPs like this is quite simple because majority of them will have this. If character find first child humanoid. Like I said before, this is so to check if they're alive and also to see if they have fully loaded in, because the humanoid is usually the last item to load in a character. So this is why they check this. But this is also the downfall of most anti-teleports, for the simple matter of fact that it is a humanoid is not required for a character to move around and also trigger events, unless you have a specific check for it, which most games do not. So to bypass, all you'd have to do is just remove the humanoid, and then you could teleport freely. So if we just do workspace.boiku.humanoid destroy, you can see how we can teleport freely. And then they could just continue to do that over and over again. And they could just go to the objective, gather the item, and go back, or go to the objective, defeat the enemy, and go back. So that's how the most basic way to bypass it is. And that's mainly used in games where it requires fighting or any form of that to hurry up and farm the objective, and then before it respawns you like that. So now you might be wondering, how can you do that without doing that? Because some games have a humanoid check. There's two ways you can do that. You can either do tweening, which tweening is iffy because there's a few majority of front page games have figured out how to partially detect tweening. And there's also the way of pathfinding service, which is a roblox service. So pathfinding service will allow you to create a path to the designated object. I'm not going to be going into that because this is just the basics overview, but those are the ways you can do it. And if you guys like this series, I can show you the ways how you can do it and how people usually patch that and how you can find your ways around that from the given information. Or just, you know, if you're a developer, you can just patch it yourself. it don't really matter. This is just a overall guide on how to do these basic things so people can be more knowledgeable. Because I see a lot of people selling this information or selling just scripts of this nature whenever at this point in time it should be something where people are learning. Because it is incredibly easy as long as you know the basics of Roblox Lua. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, just DM me on Discord.